Even as the deal is proving elusive, U.S. President Donald Trump has revealed that a second round of talks may happen within the next 2 days. However, with uranium enrichment emerging as the major sticking point, it is increasingly perceived that Russia holds the key to a deal. U.S. President Trump has said that the Islamabad talks broke down over Iran's refusal to give up its nuclear ambition. As per reports, while the U.S. asked Iran to suspend uranium enrichment for 20 years, Tehran has agreed to do so only for 5 years. It also reportedly rebuffed the U.S. request to remove its stockpile of highly enriched uranium. Russian President Vladimir Putin has now stepped in with an offer that may be acceptable to both sides. He has expressed willingness to take in Iran's enriched uranium as part of a peace deal.
Предложение было озвучено президентом Путиным.
This proposal was voiced by President Vladimir Putin in contacts with both the United States and regional states. The offer still stands but has not been acted upon.
Но не было востребовано.
Now, why may America be inclined to accept this and bring a closure to this war? While it has implemented a blockade in a bid to pressure Iran, the global energy crisis is showing no signs of abating. The IMF has issued a stern warning as well. The Strait of Hormuz may never return to normal. According to the IMF, the present crisis could lead to a new reality, where the Strait of Hormuz loses most of its traffic and stops being a key waterway, similar to what happened with the Strait of Bab al-Mandeb. It has also warned of a global recession. In fact, another point of contention has been payment of compensation. While Iran has demanded the release of its frozen assets and is mulling a proposal to charge transit fee on ships that are passing through Hormuz, it has now put up a fresh demand. In a letter addressed to the UN Secretary-General Antonio Guterres, Iran's permanent representative Amir Saeed Iravani sought reparations from Bahrain, Saudi Arabia, Qatar, the UAE, as well as Jordan. He accused them of committing internationally wrongful acts by allowing their territories to be used by America and Israel. As per the Iranian state media, the Masoud Pezeshkian-led government has pegged overall losses at about $270 billion. The letter also alleged that these countries also directly carried out attacks against civilians in Iran. Earlier, the UAE had demanded compensation from Iran for its damage that was caused to vital facilities. And now the Gulf nations, which Iran named, hosts American bases that reportedly played a key role during this war. For instance, Qatar is home to the Al Udeid Air Base, which is America's largest military installation in West Asia. Similarly, the U.S. Fifth Fleet headquarters in Bahrain's Manama is the central hub for the U.S. naval operations in the Gulf of Oman, Red Sea, Arabian Sea, and parts of the Indian Ocean. Now, incidentally, all of these bases were damaged in Iran's retaliatory action. The war in Iran has resulted in considerable damage. As per Iranian Red Crescent Society, over 125,000 civilian units, including 100,000 residential properties, have suffered damage. Around 339 medical facilities comprising hospitals, labs, and pharmacies were also hit in the Israeli-American strikes. Even educational institutions weren't spared. On the very first day of the war, 168 people, including school students and staff, were killed in an American missile strike on a girls' school in Minab. Overall, 857 schools and 32 universities were damaged in the attacks. Now, more than 140 historic sites across 20 provinces of Iran incurred damage as well from the strikes. This includes landmarks like Ahmad Riza Pahlavi Palace and the Farrokhabad Palace. According to Iran's tourism minister, Riza Salehi Amiri, the preliminary losses are estimated at $49 million. Pakistan has been under the lens for its West Asian diplomacy after hosting the U.S.-Iran talks last weekend. Why is Islamabad so invested in this peace process? Well, the answer might lie in its Strategic Defense Mutual Agreement, or the SDMA, signed with Saudi Arabia last year. While specific details regarding this pact were not disclosed back then, the two countries pledged that any attack on either country would be treated as an act of aggression against both. Now, this has raised concerns over Pakistan getting embroiled in the West Asian war. This agreement again came into focus as a Pakistani military contingent comprising around 13,000 soldiers and 10 to 18 jets was deployed to Saudi Arabia's King Abdulaziz Air Base on the 11th of April. This was the same day on which Islamabad hosted talks between America and Iran. Now, media portal Dropsite News has released new details on this agreement, which gives a sense of how Pakistan is caught between a rock and a hard place. The military cooperation between the two nations goes back decades. As per this publication, this was first crystallized in a confidential agreement on the 14th of December back in 1982. A revised version of this pact, titled Military Cooperation Agreement, was signed on the 30th of July in 2005, when late military dictator Pervez Musharraf was in power. However, the scope of this agreement was rather limited in nature. The report revealed that it focused on developing and strengthening cooperation in areas such as training, defense production, transfer of technology, and purchase of military equipment. But most importantly, it did not entail defending each other militarily. According to this publication, Saudi Arabia sought to amend this pact in August of 2021, obligating Pakistan to send forces to its territory on its request to deal with any threat which affects its security, safety, sovereignty, territorial integrity, and interests. While the then Pakistani Prime Minister Imran Khan reportedly harbored apprehensions over this clause, he was ousted from power in a no-confidence motion in April of 2022. 2 years later, a caretaker government in Pakistan approved this amendment. As per Dropsite News, this SDMA, signed in September of 2025, that's last year, is believed to be a further updated version of this agreement. Last year, Pakistan's Defense Minister Khwaja Asif's remarks on the scope of this agreement stirred a row. When asked whether Saudi Arabian troops will be deployed to Pakistan during a conflict with India, he'd said, and I quote him, "Yes, there is no doubt on this. We haven't taken a name of any nation, but if there is an aggression from any side, then it would be addressed jointly. It is not an aggressive defense pact." But Dropsite News stated that the military pact does not impose a reciprocal obligation on Riyadh to defend Pakistan. For instance, Saudi Arabia has not provided any material assistance to Pakistan in its recent war with Afghanistan. In fact, also important to note is that India and Saudi Arabia's defense ties are on the rise. They have a joint committee on defense cooperation as well as an MOU on intelligence sharing. Now, another aspect of the Saudi-Pakistan pact has evoked concerns. As per Dropsite News, Riyadh has reportedly not clearly distinguished between conventional and nuclear forces when it comes to Pakistan. Now, this raises questions whether this agreement extends to Pakistan's nuclear arsenal. Ambiguity also persists over the possibility of Pakistan having to partake in military action outside of Saudi Arabia. Pakistan's dilemma came to the fore during the initial days of the West Asia War. Speaking on the floor of the National Assembly in early March, Ishaq Dar had hinted that he had told the Iranians that Pakistan will have to militarily support Riyadh if it is attacked. This assumes significance as Pakistan and Iran share a 900-kilometer-long border, with Pakistan increasingly relying on Saudi Arabia for bailing it out financially. Obviously, its military pact becomes even more vital in these conflict-ridden times. A day after launching a scathing attack on Pope Leo, the U.S. President Donald Trump has refused to apologize for his comments on the pontiff. Speaking with reporters at the White House, Trump repeated his charge that Pope Leo is weak on crime and is against his policies on Iran.
No, I don't, because Pope Leo said things that are wrong. He was very much against what I'm doing with regard to Iran, and you cannot have a nuclear Iran. Pope Leo would not be happy with the end result. You have hundreds of millions of people dead, and it's not going to happen, so I can't.
Now, Trump also defended an AI-generated image depicting him as a Jesus-like figure. The image was posted on his Truth Social account shortly after his comments on the Pope. But when asked about the image, Donald Trump denied that he was trying to look like Jesus Christ. Instead, he said that it was meant to portray him as a doctor.
Well, it wasn't depicted. It was me. I did post it, and I thought it was me as a doctor, and had to do with Red Cross as a Red Cross worker there, which we support. And only the fake news could come up with that one. So I just heard about it, and I said, how did they come up with that? It's supposed to be me as a doctor, making people better.
Meanwhile, Italian Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni offered support to Pope Leo after the pontiff was sharply criticized by Donald Trump.
What I said is what I think. Those statements, particularly regarding the pontiff, were unacceptable. I expressed and continue to express my solidarity with Pope Leo. I'll tell you more. Frankly, I would not feel at ease in a society where religious leaders do what political leaders tell them to do. Let's say, not in this part of the world. So that is why I did not agree, and I said it.
Now, the AI-generated image has led to an outcry from religious leaders, including prominent conservative Christians, who are considered among Trump's biggest backers. Amid severe backlash, Donald Trump deleted the image from his Truth Social account on Monday. Meanwhile, American Vice President J.D. Vance has also weighed in on the entire controversy. In an interview with Fox News, Vance appeared to defend Trump's comments, saying that the Vatican should stick to matters of morality.
Brett, again, I don't think that it's particularly newsworthy, but I certainly think that in some cases it would be best for the Vatican to stick to matters of morality, to stick to matters of what's going on in the Catholic Church, and let the President of the United States stick to dictating American public policy.
Now, as this row intensifies, Pope Leo has said that he will continue to speak out against the war. Speaking aboard the papal flight to Algiers, the pontiff also said that he has no fear of the Trump administration.
I have no fear of the Trump administration or speaking out loudly about the message of the gospel. And that's what I believe. And I am called to know what the church is called to do.
The escalating feud has prompted criticism from Catholics, many of whom see Donald Trump's comments as crossing a red line.
I'm kind of disappointed of how he reciprocated that position to our God, but that's his opinion, and I will pray for him. That's all I can say.
Last year, after the death of Pope Francis, Donald Trump had posted a photograph of himself as the Pope, and he had joked that he would like to be the next Pope. The image had drawn some backlash, even as the White House reposted this image.